First of all, guys, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your night to be here with us. And as I mentioned, these three guys are with the Bronxville Paranormal Society. If it'd be good for you guys, I'd like you to introduce yourself to our listeners and kind of tell us about what you do and what Bronxville Paranormal is all about.
Okay, I'm Al Sanariga. I'm the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society. And Brian, you want to go next?
Sure, Brian Poten. I was invited by Al to join. I do technology research development and as well as investigations.
Sounds very good.
Paul Greco. I'm an artist, and I started the UFO Roundtable, which is a discussion group in Yonkers.
Oh, sounds very good. So how did you guys get into doing this? What drove you to get into this, or did you all have something happen that brought you to the point? I mean, it seems like people don't do it for a hobby; they do it. Hobby is such a bad word to tie to paranormal research, because I know, and my hat's off to you guys. There's a lot of time and effort. It's thankless, but it's challenging, and working with people can be an issue, and working with what you find there could probably be an issue too sometimes.
Well, originally, I had a lot of UFO sightings, and my brother found Paul's group online, and he said I should go and check it out. And I went, and this is close to where I work, and I work in Bronxville. And I went to one of Paul's meetings, and I hung out. It was a really, really great group. And as time went on, I used to go out on my own with my friends and do investigations, but they really weren't taking it serious. Again, like you said, it was mostly like a hobby. So as time went on, my brother said, you know all these guys, the UFO Roundtable, why don't you ask any of them if they wanted to put a team together, and if they would, go out with you. So I did. So I asked Paul, because Paul's incredible. Paul is like, he's my consultant. He's been doing it a long time, but he's got an energy about him. He can get orbs, whether it's day, night, in or out. It doesn't matter where we are. Whenever Paul takes photographs, there's orbs in the photo. And I met Brian through the group, and a couple other guys on the team that are part of the team that aren't with us tonight. Brian is a tech guy. Brian is amazing. And I'll let you guys go on from there.
Paul?
Well, let's see. I started the UFO Roundtable because of my connection with Bud Hopkins.
Oh, okay.
And also I know some other people like Peter Robbins and stuff.
Sure.
And I went to one of Bud's alien abduction, his little groups that he used to run. And, I was so lucky to be allowed to be in there because I wasn't really abducted or anything. And it was just so fascinating and amazing. I just said, well, I got to try to do something like this. So that's why I started the group.
Well, and there's so much, and I'd like to talk to you guys tonight about that. There seems to be, quite a bit of crossover between the two fields of study in paranormal and ufology. I think a lot of it tends to go very hand in hand, and people don't realize it.
Totally.
It definitely does. I'm sorry to interrupt, guys.
No.
I've noticed that. See, I've been doing or interested in this subject matter since I guess I can remember, like 3 or 4, like monsters and Lon Chaney, and it just gets building and building. Then you get introduced to Loch Ness, and then you get Bigfoot, then you hear about these UFO things and aliens, and then it just blossoms. So there's definitely a causeway that goes right through each one of them.
Without a doubt. When you, just kind of curious for the group, a lot of people, I've interviewed and I've had a lot of different paranormal research groups here in Salt Lake City in the studio, and I find it interesting. Some people are favorable of it, and others are like, well, they're a bunch of crazies. Are you guys starting, well, just like when we did this radio show, we've been doing this radio show for many, many years, and of course some people listen to it and say it's nothing but the crazy show and it's some entertainment. Although 700 guests later, and people that have dedicated their life to these different fields of study, it's interesting to see what kind of perspective people have on what you do.
Mm-hmm. I've always found that it's a difficult subject to talk about with people, but something will come up or an opening will present itself where someone can always slip in, well, did you ever see one?
Right.
In reference to
absolutely.
UFOs. I've always been interested in it, but I'm also a science kind of guy, technology science. I look at every aspect of a situation. I weigh in on everybody. I'll let everybody speak, and then I will, use deductions to kind of pull in a theory or something about whatever we're searching. So there's more science to it. But I've as also a God-fearing person, very much so. When people give me a hard time about the subject of, let's say, aliens or Bigfoot or what have you, I say I believe in God. I've never met him, but he's there. So what's the problem with somebody who's seen something that they don't know what it is? It's flying in the sky, but they're crazy.
Right.
So if you weigh it in the right way and you talk in an educated fashion, it's not the crazy hour. There are people in this field that really do need help. But in general, it's just a very interesting subject, and that's what piqued my interest, because you never know.
Well, exactly. And the thing is, and I'm sure, like as you mentioned, there's a lot of people that when the subject is mentioned, whether, again, it's ufology, cryptozoology, what it is, there's some people that kind of turn their nose up to it. But once the talk is on the table, even some of the people that maybe, don't want to admit they believe in it or don't want to admit that they have interest in it, if they start to feel comfortable, things will come up and they'll say, yeah, years ago I did see this, or I thought I saw that. And that kind of opens up the discussion, and that's kind of where you got to start from. Some people just, I find some of the people that are so skeptical, they use that as kind of a defense mechanism almost, because something might have happened and they don't want to talk about it.
Right. Well, I found that also. Like people at first will say, no, I don't believe in that, or I don't know about that. And then once you start talking to them a little bit more and you show them that you're serious and you're not like going to make a joke out of it, then they will actually admit to you, well, when I was 18, I did see something with my friends once, and I don't know what it was, but it was really weird, So they do have experiences.
Right, exactly. With your group, and I'd like to talk about, we'll get into some of your investigations, and like I said, just kind of go all over the place. Do you guys, does your group ever bring in any psychics or mediums or people that have, have some talents maybe above and beyond a lot of others? Do you use mediums or psychics at all?
We do have a psychic on the team. She comes from, her name is Cindy, and she's out of Arkansas. And what we usually do is we'll call, it's funny, because Cindy is amazing. Like a week before we actually go anywhere, and I don't really tell her anything at the time, She'll call me, and she'll say, okay, what are you guys up to now? What are you doing? I'm getting this feeling. I'm seeing that. I'm feeling this. And she always manages to call like 2 or 3 days before we head out. And what I usually do is whenever we get to a location, I'll call her, and she's an empath, so she feels all the energy, and then she'll start telling us what she feels and what she sees, and then we'll work it. We'll call her on and off as the night goes on. We have questions, and she's really, really good. She's amazing.
Well, I've noticed that too. A lot more teams here in Utah, especially, a lot more are bringing mediums and psychics on board with them to, if there's something present in a home or a place, a location, wherever it may be, kind of, I don't want to say it gives them the edge, but it does. Somebody that may see a little bit more beyond the tools of the trade and the technology of the trade to find out things.
It's another tool.
Right.
It's a great tool, actually, to have. And one of the things about Cindy, and I think she probably gets a little bit upset with us, but we are constantly doing this is how we think, and I think we investigate. We always want to question, so we just don't just assume and get sucked into the ether. We will test her when we're at a location, and she goes, "You guys test me again, aren't you?" And we kind of we don't snicker, but we nod. She knows it's just like a calibration, as I would see it.
Right. Well, again, I mean, you just like your tools, you got to make sure it's all working right and it's all meshing together good. That's having it all work is what it's all about, to come up with some sort of an answer, get some sort of results.
Yeah,
I think
that's why. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think all of us are very evidence-based.
Right. Well, to be honest with you, I'm not a skeptical person. I think most people, and I would assume you're fall in the same category. I'm not a skeptic, but I am skeptical.
Yes.
Because I don't want to be fooled. I mean, I really don't. There's some tools of the trade that the paranormal research people use that I don't know if I really agree with. I'm kind of on the fence on some of the stuff. I think you got to go with your gut intuition on a lot of things. But then I've been proven wrong before. But I mean, I don't like wishful thinking. If something's really there, well, let's see it. If it's not, let's call it how it is. And I don't want to be fooled, and I think most people don't want to.
Well, that's the problem.
Absolutely.
And like you, Pat, we're very interested in getting to the truth of the matter, and we definitely don't want to be fooled. And I'm actually writing something. I'm talking with Cindy actually about this, but it's the technology you see on TV these days.
Right.
They're using REM pods and this electronic and that. I'm going to be brutally honest. It's kind of, I feel like maybe the magicians are going to get mad. I'm revealing a secret, which it's not. But this is all hypothesis. There's no real science involved with this field. I'm talking about ghosts or ghost hunting or something to that effect. You're throwing a machine out there like a REM pod, which is basically checking the static in the area, electric charges, and see if there's fluctuation. And from that's what this device is testing. It's not telling you there's a ghost there. They're saying there's a fluctuation in the area now, and you should maybe investigate. But these people you see a lot of time on TV and live and wherever, and ghost hunters this, and like, oh, it's lighting up, and they're
right.
It kind of like people like, wow, there's a ghost there. No, it just means that there's something in the area. It could be anything. But
it's like Pat said, wishful thinking.
Yeah, wishful thinking.
Well,
exactly.
And too, the thing is I think a lot of these, and I'd like to get your opinions on that, guys. I mean, I think a lot of these paranormal shows, for a while, it was, the channels were just flooded with it. I think there's a couple of them out there that are pretty decent, and then a lot of it's, really, I hate to say it, but a lot of these shows are no better than the Kardashians. It's reality TV. The build up toward the end, they go to commercial. Call it what you want. And
entertainment, Pat. Entertainment.
Right.
They are.
But you know what, though? I also think that some of those shows make a mockery of what people are really trying to do and put a bad flavor. It puts a bad taste in people's mouth, because there are people like you that do devote the time. They do, they're not getting paid by Discovery. They're not making a big salary or being flown all over the place. You guys are out there and, you burning your own gas, using your own time, paying for your own equipment, and
absolutely,
it's sometimes it gets a little bit tough.
Yeah, but it's a love. I mean, we love what we do. We really do, and
it's more real.
We enjoy it. That's why we do it. If we didn't love what we're doing, we wouldn't do it.
Right, because we're making money on it. We're just doing it.
Yeah,
we love it.
There's too many people making money off it, and I agree with you. These shows are. When Discovery's thinking, it has a series, they're putting millions of dollars into it. That's a 1 with 6 zeros, and they want to get
right.
They want to get a lot of money back from it. So I get it, and I understand. Sometimes that what you'll see on TV, it looks like it's all fluid, but it's like, oh, can we do another set of you guys running down the hallway again? Or they'll retake certain things, or the introductions. But and would anybody pass up the opportunity to get paid to do something that they really enjoy? I mean, that's like what you look for in life. I personally wouldn't, but we go out there because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet or what experience you're going to have or what you're going to come up with. And it's really intriguing, and I hate the term hobby as well, Pat, but it's a great enjoyment. I mean, where else can you get educated and also have a good time?
But the thing, and the only reason I kind of snuff at the hobby thing is because I know, and I'm sure, I don't know, I know for sure, you guys get phone calls from people that truly have an issue. I've listened to some of these calls that a couple of the local groups have taken, and there's some people that are literally scared out of their wits. They're scared. They're scared for their family. Some people, that aren't trained in what you do. I've heard some of the teams say some people feel that maybe they're having a nervous or a mental breakdown of some sort, Or could there be something in the home? Could there be carbon monoxide in the home or something like that because they're seeing things? And that's where, guys like you, your group, guys like you, that's where you take the hobby out of it, and now it becomes very, very real when you're dealing with people that are truly, truly scared and want to know what's going on.
It's also nice to be able to... Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I was just going to say, it's nice to be able to help those people, too.
Right.
And I'll tell you
Al's really good at that.
With me,
Al's great at that.
With me, true story, there was a point in time in 2011 or 2012 in the fall, in the early winter, where I was having sightings every single night for like a month straight. And my brother is a paranormal investigator, and he's a parapsychologist. And, it kind of runs in my family. My mother always had premonitions, and my sister, I believe, is an intuitive. And I thought I was going out of my mind. I thought I was losing my mind, and I was on the phone. Thank God I had my brother and my sister to talk to. And when my brother hooked me up with Paul's group, the UFO Roundtable, it was like a heaven sent, because to be around like-minded people and to discuss it and everything. I honestly thought I was losing my mind. And I could see how people who don't understand what's going on in their homes, it could have that effect on them.
Oh, I agree. And, and when you've experienced it firsthand, I also believe that there's some people out there, and I've made this comment a few times, I think there's some individuals, I think there's a lot of people in this world that do have psychological issues, and there's a lot of people that are on a lot of different drugs and pills and stuff to keep it under control. But I also believe there's a lot of people that there are outside forces that are affecting their lives. It's hard to get other people, it's hard for the medical community or profession to look at that. But I think there's a lot of people that aren't really crazy, and they are seeing things, and they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues. Usually when somebody contacts us, it's directly to Al for the most part, or if they find us we're walking around and we're introducing ourselves. But we do an assessment. We go there. We want to make sure that the person is mentally there. If there's other issues, we survey the scene. And if we come across something where it's more medical, I will say, related, we'll suggest a few things for them, try to steer them into that direction to try to help them out. But there are those times where Al just did an interview with someone. They called, this lovely lady called him. She's having some problems, and he went over to see if it's mental or if there's gas or there's something going on in the house, like a fear cage type of aspect. And she was genuinely having a paranormal experience. What was it? I think Al went for a 10-minute interview, turned into 2 hours, Al?
Yeah, that was an amazing case. It really was, Brian. I was going over for, actually I was on my way down to a UFO roundtable meeting, and the woman called, and she was on my way. So I said, you know what, I'll pop in, and I'll do a little interview, just make sure she, wasn't on heavy meds or anything like that.
Right.
And that's why you were late.
Well, I was a little late, yeah. And I stopped in, and she started telling me she was like, burns on her arm one night, bruises on her legs, scratches on her arms, and one thing led to another. And I didn't have a lot of equipment with me, but I had a few things in the car, and I started doing an investigation. And she was telling me about how her dog always sits in the corner and barks, and then she took pictures of the corner, and there was a ton of orbs in the photo, and one thing led to another. And during the preliminary investigation, that's what it really was, I broke out the obelisk. The obelisk started saying so much stuff, and everything it said she could relate to. And she actually had like a breakdown, and I had to help her to her room, and I called our psychic Cindy up, and Cindy spoke to her and calmed her down. And in the meantime, I'm taking photographs of the apartment, and I felt like something was dodging me. I'm going here, I'm going there, and it just felt like something was dodging me. And at one point, to make a long story short, I'm standing in her foyer taking pictures of her bedroom. She says above her bedroom door she sees blue and a white orb. When a white orb comes out of the bathroom wall, literally a foot away from me, I could have reached down and touched the sides of a golf ball, makes a 90-degree left-hand turn, goes down the hall, takes a 90-degree right-hand turn, and goes out the back door. The whole time I'm chasing it, and I never took the picture. I was with my camera. By the time I pressed the shutter, the thing was already out of the frame, so I never got a picture of it. But I never thought in a million years I would see an orb with my own two eyes.
Was it like a ball of energy? Was it I mean, we always see it's. I mean, even with orbs, and I'm sure you guys are the same. A lot of times it's like, well, is it an orb? Is it a dust bunny? What is it? But you physically saw it with your own eyes.
Yeah, I seen it with my own. I could have, if I wasn't so amazed at what I was seeing. Not only could I have taken a picture and caught it in the frame, but I could have reached down, touched the top close. And the funny thing about it is I stepped back away from that wall to take the photograph, when this thing came out, I got the feeling that it would say to it, like it was trying to make a break for it. Like it said, okay, backed out of the way. Let me make a break for it now and head out that back door. Because I'll tell you, I took a lot of photographs of that apartment, and only one photograph. There was one photograph of the back door leading to the patio where I had a feeling there was something there, but I couldn't see it. So I took the photograph, and it was the only photograph out of the whole roll that came out with blurry. And when I sent it to Brian and I had him put it through his software, the whole photograph has like these energy lines going through it. It's an amazing photograph. I was just blew my mind.
And when did this? When was this? Was this fairly recent?
Yeah,
a couple of months back, right?
Last month. Well, right, it was before.
Yeah, last month I think.
Last month, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With that thing being there, did the feel of the room, or were there any physical things that you felt at all when that thing appeared and disappeared?
I just the ghost radar said there were two entities in the house, and the Oculus just went crazy. And just like this woman, the Oculus was, I never heard it talk so much it wouldn't shut up, and everything it said this woman could relate to. And but I just felt the whole time I was there something was dodging me. No matter what part of the apartment I went to, I felt like something was going to the other side of the room. And I called our psychic Cindy, and she said yes, that she felt that there was an energy in the apartment, and she felt that it was an old energy. She actually thought it was like a woods creature, or like a woods fairy, or something along a gnome, or something along those lines. And when I chased it out the back door, she said, maybe you should salt that entryway to keep it out. But I still have a feeling that there is something else there. I don't think I got rid of everything. I think just we got rid of maybe one thing, but there is something there. But then after it was all said and done, I saged the apartment, and I blessed it with holy water, and I gave her a prayer card that had been blessed by the church. And I waited a few days to see what happened, because I figured if it was something dark, it was going to come back with a vengeance. She hadn't called, so I called her back after about a week, and she said she's sleeping great, no more dark dreams, no more bruising at night. The apartment feels lighter, and just the whole place, she said the whole atmosphere of the place changed.
Wow,
that's great.
So did she sense that this was something that was not too much on? I would assume something that's not on the friendly side, or something that was maybe taunting her?
Well, she felt, the psychics felt that because this woman lived in a condominium complex, and this complex was huge, and it was built in the middle of the woods, she felt that whatever this thing was, like whatever woods creature it was mad that they destroyed the woods to build this complex. And she also told me that this woman wasn't the only one having experiences in the complex. There were other people there as well having experience, but this woman was the only one who actually spoke up and looked for help.
Very interesting. You guys are located right out of New York City, isn't that correct?
Yeah, Yonkers I'm in.
Do you?
Yeah, Brian's actually in the Bronx.
Gotcha. Do you? I mean, are there a lot of those? I know there's a lot of old homes and stuff there. Do you guys find? I mean, what stuff that goes on in the city or right around the surrounding areas of the city, does that keep you pretty busy?
Well, yeah,
there's
Westchester
a ton of
County is
stuff.
very old, so we have a lot of old mansions, historical sites, and there's a lot of ley lines. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in Westchester.
Right. We got
Yeah,
the chambers.
I'm sorry, what
Stone
was that?
Chambers. We have the stone chambers in upstate New York.
Oh, what's I never heard of that before. What's that?
Really?
Yeah.
You never heard of the ancient stone chambers?
No.
Wow.
Really? Yeah, I did an investigation there as well. That was pretty amazing, too.
Yeah, it's some incredible. There's like, I don't know, like many of them up there.
I think they said there's 190, something like that.
Wow.
109, maybe.
What were
Yeah,
they?
a lot have been destroyed, I think, for houses, but
Yes.
there's this one called the King's Chamber that is really amazing, really big, and it's got a standing stone in front of it.
What were they used for? What was their purpose?
Good question.
Well, the mainstream says that they were for vegetables.
Root cellars.
Yeah, root cellars.
Yeah, root cellar storage.
It was
Okay.
ridiculous because they're built like so incredibly strong. You wouldn't need something like that for vegetables.
And they maintain the right temperature to store food for a while, but the locations themselves are a lot of anomalies in the areas where they're located. So we believe, and there's a bunch of people that do believe that they were used for other purposes.
Right, like Phil Imbrogno, he thinks they're like possibly ceremonial. They could be Viking, or they could be Celtic.
Wow.
Evidently, the American Indians said they were always there,
Yeah.
and they didn't build them. The Indians said.
Yeah, so
and
they're pretty old.
I actually did research with a digital thermometer, and it doesn't matter where they are. They're in the sun or in the woods, or because they're built all over the place. They're all 60 degrees inside all the time.
And they're called stone chambers.
Yep.
Ancient stone chambers. That's what we're calling them. That's what they call them.
There's a great book on it called Celtic Mysteries of New England, and that goes.
Yeah.
That's,
If you
that's
actually
Phil-
go up to New Hampshire, it's called America's Stonehenge, and they give tours, but it's basically stone chambers, and they discovered what seemed to be like a village of them.
Yeah.
But it's a fairly interesting area. There's magnetic anomalies, and people just sometimes when they go there just don't feel right. Some people get a lot more energy. But that what the book Paul just mentioned is a great read if you want to brush up on them.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. Again, we've got Paul and Brian and Al. Again, thanks, guys, for giving up your couple hours on your Saturday night for us.
Oh, thank you for having us on.
Our
Anytime.
pleasure. Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, this ancient stone thing, just looking at it on the internet real quick, it looks like it's either for storage or could be little prisons or little houses or who knows what it is, but you say a lot of magnetic anomalies up there, a lot of crazy
lot of
things.
Yeah.
When I went there and I did my investigation, the compass went crazy inside the building. Inside the chamber itself, the compass just went crazy. It was pointing, I believe it was pointing southwest as true north. There's these things, the stones that they use to build these are so heavy, that like so big. There's no way in God's
Huge
that
stones.
these were made for a root cellar. I'm just not buying it.
And
when I was
the biggest,
there, go ahead.
the biggest stones are ones that are on the top.
The roof, yeah, the roof.
The roof
stones
is the
are
biggest,
humongous.
hugest stones. I mean, how do they get those up there?
Yeah. Well, that's like with, like with the pyramids and all the other stuff.
Exactly.
It's like, that wasn't four people with straps that brought that stuff up. I mean, that took some serious engineering.
Unbelievable.
Serious engineering and serious machinery.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe
I
not.
mean,
Maybe not of this world machinery.
yeah, definitely. I don't know where it came from, but another person that kind of mimicked that was, I guess, if you want to go down south to the Coral Castle.
Yes.
But they were building those coral. This guy built the Coral Castle. He was moving. From what the reports are, they saw him physically moving stone, like blocks of coral, ton blocks of coral, with his fingers. Let's push it. So maybe we're missing. Maybe we're so inundated with all these different things going on, flash, microwave generation, that we're missing the little nuances that that little secret to make our lives that much better.
Right.
And these guys just had it because they had all the free time. They didn't have the distractions to play around with. I mean, how they moved the stones to put them on top of these small chambers. You're talking about maybe you have a couple of horses, but how long did it take you to train the horses? I mean, you need to have something there. There's something else going on.
Right. No, I agree. I think there's some amazing, and again, just looking at and again, for our listeners that are interested, if you just do a Google search on ancient stone chambers, they come up all over the place. Now, you said, was it Brian, did you say about the ley lines? Is there something, if you put some things together that maybe don't add up, or I should say do add up?
I was actually talking about the ley lines, but a lot of these places do fall where there are ley lines. Mm-hmm. These are the same lines that will pass through some of the sacred sites that you'd get around the world. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, different areas.
Yeah, I think a lot of the churches even have ley lines.
Yes.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Is there a lot of paranormal activity up there around these things?
Yeah, there's been a lot of UFO sightings near the chambers. There's been entity sightings up there. There's been, like, Indian sightings, sort of people in robes and stuff. It's hard to know, how much of that is accurate, but
sure,
there's been a lot of reports of it, so I'm sure some of it.
I did some research. I wasn't as versed with all these chambers in the New York area, actually. I mean, I knew there was something if I purchased New York, but I wasn't familiar with where the King's Chamber is in that area. And I actually had a friend that lived up in the Patterson area where there are a couple of chambers. And every time we'd go down this one road, my wife would just get the willies out of nowhere. It's the same spot all the time. So she doesn't believe in this as much as she's a skeptic. But when you start seeing other people that are skeptics kind of getting affected by it, there's something else going on in that area.
Right.
And that's what piques my interest. Okay, let's go investigate this. So,
Brian, was that Magnetic Mine Road?
I'm not sure exactly what the road. It was a major road with like 30 something or 302 or going. There's this one spot where it gets to like a 1-lane road where you kind of have to make sure. And when we got to that spot, she would wake up from a deep sleep when we're driving up there, and she'd go, "Yeah, I don't like this. Go fast. Get out of this area." So, and I got to be honest, I get a little chuckle out of that because she knows what I'm into, the subjects and UFOs, this and that. And when she experiences something, it's kind of like, "Yeah, told you so." So it makes it a little bit easier on me. But yeah.
Interesting. Do they, up around these things, as you mentioned, you saw there's the people that have claimed they've seen UFOs. Anybody claim they see, Bigfoot cryptid type creatures at all?
Yeah, I think so. I think there have been reports of that as well.
Yes, there's been reports of Bigfoot sightings along the chambers. As far and as long and as Bigfoot, UFOs, shadow figures, all kinds of things have been reported around the chambers.
Interesting. Well, the thing is too. I mean, like here in Utah, I'm sure you guys have heard of the famous Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah.
We get a lot of crazy things that happen down there, and again, a lot of it's tied to ancient, Native American stuff, which I would assume that maybe some of these stone chambers are tied to Native American history.
Well, I'm sure they went.
Were pretty versed in that.
I'm sure they went to the chambers. I don't know if they built them though.
Okay. Yeah,
the Native Americans in Northeast New York didn't build chambers. They either lived in the teepees or they built longhouses. They didn't build with stone, only in the Southwest.
But the Celts built in stone.
Gotcha.
But what's really interesting is,
in fact, the chambers here in New York are very similar to the chambers in Ireland.
Well, and there's a lot of Celtic. It seems like there's a lot of when you start talking about Celtic rites and ancient Irish rites and what have you, there's a lot of I don't know if you want to say paranormal stuff, but there's a lot of spiritual stuff tied to it.
Totally.
Definitely spiritual.
yeah.
It's very interesting with the Native American side. You know, the indigenous people of this continent, which also go into the Russia continent down south, South America. I'm not sure if they were intermingling with each other and swapping stories, but I mean, they have similar legends and similar sightings through their storytelling that you get with what goes on in Utah, what you get in this the Idaho area, Montana, even in New York. I mean, I spent summers up in a camp in the Winstead area. Didn't even know that there was a creature there they called the Winstead Wild Man, basically a Bigfoot, and never knew about it. I mean, if as a kid I would have been all over this, I would have loved it, because it's intriguing, it's ghost stories, but it's everything similar. And the areas that they seem to get these sightings, and you'll always find some kind of anomaly, be it a magnetic hill where you put your car in neutral and it seems like you're going up a hill, but or something there. So I think there's more than just. I think it's more than just folklore. When we get to these subject matters.
Very
right.
interesting.
Well, all around the world are reporting these creatures. These Bigfoot Yetis and different things.
Right. Well,
there's got to be something to it.
Right.
It can't just be.
They seem to be quite elusive, which I kind of tend to believe that they may have somewhat of I don't know if you want to call it a spiritual essence to them, but they seem to be able to, and I don't know if they're an interdimensional being of sorts or if just people get scared and they take off, but it seems like for as many people that are out there trying to research them and find them, they're a very elusive creature, probably a lot smarter than we realize. And again, I sometimes question, are they able to? I don't know. They seem to be able to disappear in thin air.
Well, I had a Bigfoot sighting when I was 12 years old down in South Florida at my sister's house, and it would look like flesh and blood to me. It was real as hair on your head. Believe me.
Interesting. And then also, of course, down there, I've had a couple other, cryptozoologists on the show. You've got the boggy, the boggy swamp creature, which is some sort of a lot of people thought it was a skunk ape or a swamp ape or something. But I mean, there's a lot of unique ones. I mean, they come in many different shapes and forms.
Well, you have, what is it, Mothman in Pennsylvania, right?
Right.
For the most part, the legend of that. You have Jersey Devil.
Right.
Legend of that. Then you get the whole spectrum of whatever you want to call Bigfoot or Sasquatch or Yeti, and it changes depending on what location you are. You have one that's the howler, the skunk ape in Florida. I can only assume that this creature, whatever it is, it's totally familiar. The nose by the back of their hand, their area, and can work the swamp. And I think the creatures that are there, something that would be predatory like a bear, are very, very fearful of whatever this is because of its abilities.
Right.
We recently, whenever you want to discuss it, we had an investigation in Nuclear Lake where there were sightings in that area. And we had an encounter vocally with something, and it literally transversed from one point to maybe a mile out in a matter of seconds, in my opinion. I mean, it was just, you couldn't move that fast in the dark without, I don't know.
Killing yourself.
Maybe either you know the area really well and you know your path and you're really that big, or you have some kind of advantage.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the truth, Pat. I wasn't really buying the interdimensional aspect of the Bigfoot thing. I always thought maybe they were more of, they could go in and out of different spectrums of light, that dimension. But after our experience at Nuclear Lake, I'm not so sure about that theory anymore, because we had night vision cameras and thermal imagers, and something charged us, and we couldn't see it.
Really?
So, I mean, yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
we
it does
had,
go in.
the atypical calls. We had this whoop that was really right on top of us. I would say no more than 20 feet away from us. A rock, not like a pebble, a rock thrown at us, landing where you can hear and feel the weight of that thing hitting the ground. And this is in the middle, like a couple miles out. There's bogs, there's swamps. You can't move. I mean, if you try to run in a forest in the dark, you're going to get killed.
Right, right.
So whatever this thing was, went from where we were out, and then it probably came back and was just still, watching us and surveying us. When it was taking place, I kind of got the feel that whatever it was almost like a recon mission by this creature, because it seemed to be talking to something that was at a distance in a different direction from us. And with the whoops that came by, there was three of us. There was three whoops, almost like telling them, "Yeah, there's three of them. Stay where you are."
Right.
That's what I'm assuming from this.
Brian, you recorded those sounds, right?
We didn't. We were on. We had everything going. We had a couple of issues with some of the equipment there. We didn't get them, but we scoured. Everybody was scouring every vocalization that you can think of that comes from this creature, or is claimed to come from this creature. And what we put up and what we found happened to be from Kentucky, and near the Appalachian Trail down there, by the way. And we were pretty much on their Appalachian Trail where this took place. So it was as close as you're going to get. I mean, it was as if we recorded.
That whoop sound that you played at the meeting, that wasn't what you recorded.
No, that was not. That is the closest thing we recovered. We were able to find. I mean, after that, I think Bill and Al and I, we just the next day we kind of were scouring vocalization. I must have listened to 150 different vocalizations, be it audio and video, and I heard this and I was like, "That's it."
Yeah, that was
no doubt. That was it. We were presenting it to each other, and I mean that was literally. I'm 99% positive that was it.
That was very close, Brian. That was very close. I don't know if that was 100% it, but it was really, really close.
It's at that point when we kind of missed an opportunity. I told Al from this point forward, we are going to have a recorder going 24/7 the minute we roll up, and every 2 hours we're going to change the batteries, and we're going to either mark it or change the disc, because we can't go. I can't do that anymore. Where you're hearing this, and people think you're crazy to begin with. What are you doing? Doing this? Oh, this is not real. But it was enough to get us up out of our chairs immediately, and have we did have some kind of machetes with us because we were in the woods. It's protection from some of the bigger game in the area.
Sure.
And I think everybody was at least 3/4 drawn. That's how close it was, and that's how loud and powerful it was. So it was real, and from this point forward, I'm going to have a recorder going
all the time
from the start to the end.
And I'll be honest with you, Pat. I had the parabolic mic on, and I heard it coming from a distance, and I honestly thought, that it was another person, because it was Halloween night. It was Halloween Eve. It was a full moon. Dogs were barking. The coyotes were howling. It was. We had the meteor shower going. It was just a great night. This place did go it's got a lot of energy.
Al, don't forget it was on Halloween too.
Yeah, it was Halloween night. Yeah, and I heard it through the parabolic mic, and I thought it was someone coming through the woods. And I let everybody else listen to it. I let Brian and Bill listen to it, and they were like, "No way, Al. That's not a person. That's too big, too heavy." And then when it got directly below us, 30 feet below us, we're up on a ridge line, and it was down in the swamp. The swamp was dried out. It did a rock knock, just knocked two rocks together, and I couldn't believe it. And when it did those three whoops, it was so loud that the ground under our feet vibrated. It was just mind-boggling.
Well,
and then, Brian.
And Bill just sent me an email and said to mention that the mist or whatever was kind of a strange color as well.
Yeah, the first location we were there at that where we had the whoops. It's talking about intensities and feelings you get when you go to a place. It just started building and building and building and building. It was just you kind of felt a little. It was getting colder and uncomfortable. So I started taking pictures with the camera. It's a great camera that does. It's an Olympus, and it does multiple photos, and then uses an algorithm to pull them together, so at very low light. So I was getting some great shots, and in one or two of the shots, I was getting a reddish mist, red and purple mist. There's no mist in the area. There was no mist there when we were there. We had some lights on every once in a while, and I know mist. I've been in the woods. I'm very familiar with being in the woods and what it's like when it mists. So that was pretty interesting.
Brian, did you use the flash?
At one point, we used flash. Bill was using a little bit of he had a flashlight. We all had headlamps, but even with the flash, brand new camera. I've tested it before I used it. It just appears in only one or two photos, and then the rest after, before and after are fine.
Right.
So then when we moved to a different,
the whole night was pretty crazy.
Bill also mentioned about the lack of any animal life or other animal noises around there too.
No, there was no animals. First of all, there wasn't any animals, places. There was no frogs, no crickets, no bats, a couple of ducks in the lake. That was about it. There were dogs barking in the distance, the coyotes howling in the distance. But after the three whoops, coyotes and the dogs became dead silent, and then the whole woods, the sounds of the woods just died. There wasn't that